Yeah. That we're live. The title will be about burpees. So spoiler, everybody. You probably saw the thumbnail. You probably clicked on it because you want to improve your burpees. How to get better at burpees. Arguably the most staple movement in CrossFit. I don't know if it's the best determinant of who is the best in CrossFit, but the best CrossFitters are very good at burpees. Small, tall, big, small, large, everyone in between. Fikowski to Colton Mertens, James Sprague to Chris Spieler. They're all really, really good at burpees. And if you want to improve and, climb the ranks on the leaderboard, you need to get better at burpees. So that's what we're talking about today on the Proof 3 podcast. We're going to go over how to get better at them, maybe what's limiting you, and a little bit of kind of like a little story on, like maybe a projection on how you could get better by next year. Similar to last podcast, we talked a lot about capacity, how the testing body's going, and we talked about, how you should be approaching training a little bit, and not as much. We touched on it, but why these things should be important to work on. So yeah, if you are not satisfied with your 7 minutes of burpees time, or your 100 bar facing burpees for time, or any burpee workout, we can help you there. And if you are just mentally not ready to push the burpees, I don't know how much we can help you there. You're going to have to want it. You're going to have to want to hurt a little bit. So yeah, what do you got to say, Sam?
Well, I love that you brought up the 7 minutes of burpees, because that was the first open workout in 2012, which was my second open I did. And I did that workout. So for those that don't know, it was 7 minutes, as many burpees as you could achieve. And you had a 6-inch target above your head or above your reach. And I think I did it 4 times in 5 days. Like that's when I was just so green to everything. And I was just like, I got to get more reps at this. And I remember I did it different ways. I would like go 30 seconds really hard, and then I'd slow down, and then I'd go hard, and then I just went steady the whole time. I tried so many different, I even filmed it to like watch. So
what was your score?
My best was 105. So the first time I did it, I did 100. And then I don't think it was the next day. I think it was the day after I went, and I got like 103. And so I did it Thursday, I did it Saturday, Sunday. No, I think I did Thursday, Friday. So I think I went 100, 103. Saturday, I did probably squats. Sunday, I had to have done it. I think I did like 104 maybe. And then I think I did it Monday right before the deadline. I did 105. So yeah,
that's in hindsight, that's you've ever done in a 1 week period.
Oh yeah, by far. But I was determined. I'm like, I got to improve. I got to do better. And so let's see. I would have been 20. I was 21 that year. Yeah, the open came out around my birthday. So yeah, I was 21. So yeah, I was full of piss and vinegar. Recover fast. I could handle it. I could handle 400 burpees in like less than 5 days. So
that was my first open workout, and I want to say the open started like the last week of January then or something. I guess it could have been early February, but I had just started CrossFit in November, and I just showed up on Saturday, and they were like, "This is the open. This is what you're doing. You have to sign up." And we always would partner up on Saturdays and do the open workouts. Well, I didn't know this, but that's what they were doing. And I got partnered with one of my good friends who's also named Roman. We were both Roman at the CrossFit gym. He did it first, and he got like 92. And he had been doing CrossFit for like a year, and he was pretty good at this. He's very good at endurance, and I got 96, and he was furious. I remember he didn't say he was, but he was noticeably mad. My dad's got a couple of videos on it from like on his iPad. I don't even know why he was there or why he had his iPad, but he has it, and I gotta find that. But yeah, I just did it once, and it was. Smart. I remember I was so good because I didn't know what I was getting into. I was just like, all right, I'll just go, and I kind of just went kind of fast, and then I remember slowing down a lot, and then going really fast at the end. But we had done kind of a lot of burpees and like up downs in football at the time. I just got done with the football season, so like I wasn't too deconditioned for that, I guess. But man, that was a crazy one. I
think
don't even remember much after.
I think Rich got like 140. I remember he held at least 20 per minute, which was so impressive. I think the world record for the handshake was up there too, maybe 145. And then this one guy from, I think he was from Russia, he got like 150 plus, but he was like 5'5", like 150. But I remember watching the video. It's just like he was just like bouncing off the ground the whole time for 7 minutes. But then the next workout was the snatch workout, and nobody heard of him ever again. So
nobody. Yeah, that's so. And then we never saw it repeat, but we did see it.
Hasn't been repeated. A lot of
we
burpees,
saw then the next year was like the snatch, and then the next year was the mix of burpee and snatch. That was pretty cool. But yeah, you got to be good at burpees. This year, quarterfinals obviously had 150 burpee box jump overs and 90 burpees over the dumbbell.
But so I'm sure this movement's top of mind for a lot of people. But to your opening statement, it's super important in this sport that you're comfortable doing burpees in many different ways, and you have a good sense of your cadence and your breathing and just like how to actually perform it, which we'll talk a little bit about, because I think while there is performance characteristics you need with your burpee, there's also a lot of I don't want to say psychological, but let's say cognitive resources you need for a burpee, as it is with every movement. So I think that'll be maybe something people can take away from what we'll chat about, is this frame as an idea for how to think about other movements that you want to get better at. So while we'll focus on the burpee, you can use the same idea and some of the questions we'll ask to then assess other movements that might be challenging or not strong suits of yours.
Mm-hmm. And I think it would be pretty rare and hard to find somebody who is good at burpees and not, or great at burpees and who is not good or great at relative upper body strength as well, which is important in the sport too. Being able to move well with pressing, and you might not be the best puller, but like you're thinking of handstand push-ups, muscle ups, hanging on the bar, handstand walking, likely not that it will directly improve, but you're better at burpees. You have a more robust, shoulder and, more robust triceps, and, they're stronger, they're more enduring, probably will improve in other areas as well.
Yeah.
Or elevate your ability
strong.
to. Yeah.
Yeah. Because there is an element of an optimal amount of like core tensioning, so that there's good compression through your abdomen, so that you're not leaking energy as you're getting up and down. So there's a lot that can be extrapolated from a burpee that transfers to a lot of the sport, because you do need to be really good with your body and your body weight.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're not great at burpees, or you're pretty good at burpees, and you're like, how can I get better? So we need to identify why we're not very good at them. Maybe you already did a test, but you did the 7 minutes of burpees. Your score is X. Let's just say your score is 100 and you're trying to get to 125. There's three, you kind of have three main buckets, or two, and two is like a one-parter. These are broad strokes, but three main areas we would look at. And these apply to a lot of other movements as well, especially when we're talking about them in a sense of like capacity or metabolically, like working out, not just like a 1RM or something. So the three you have are muscle fatigue, cardiac limitation, or where am I right now? Yeah, cardiac limitation, and delivery.
Well, yes, the delivery. Well, the delivery kind of ties into the cardiac.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of two-parter, because you could be pretty okay at one and not great at the other if you're maybe you have a great VO2 max, but not maybe not a lot of time spent building your roads.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and to your point, so we'll first focus on people who aren't good at burpees or want to get better. Because if you are good and you, I guess, want to get even better, then that'll be a little bit different. Because our starting question is, which you brought up a good point. You could look at any tests that you've done with burpees, whether it was 100 reps for time, 7-minute AMRAP. Even if you took the quarterfinal workout, you're like, yeah, my burpees suck there. It's like, well, now you have a wall ball involved. So it's a little bit different, but still maybe we could pull out from that something that is limiting you with that movement. So we got to ask, what limits you from performing them faster or better or at a higher rate? So with almost any movement in the sport, it's like what prevents you from doing it at a faster rate? Because that's what we're really looking for. Like going from 100 to 120 in 7 minutes, you're needing to add pretty much 2.5 reps, about 2.5 reps per minute for 7 minutes. So how can you go that much faster? So what you'll commonly hear, muscle fatigue. So like your triceps just start fatiguing and you have to slow down because your triceps can't push you off the ground at that same speed anymore. And so if we're seeing that can be, to an earlier point you made, you could just be weak. Like your pressing is just really weak. Like maybe your push-ups aren't great. Maybe your bench press isn't that great. Maybe your dip strength's not that great. Maybe you're just weak. Or you could be strong, which this happens a lot with CrossFitters, I would say. You could be strong, but you get pumped, or you lose the ability to keep working at a high rate. And that can possibly be because there's poor oxygen delivery to the working muscle, to what you mentioned about the roads. Like you don't have enough blood supply to that area to keep working at the rate that you want to work at. So then you have to start developing those roads. You got to start developing the thoroughfare for where oxygen can get to the muscle, deliver it, so the muscle keep working at a high rate, get that out of there, keep that going and going and going. So you could be strong and still have a muscle fatigue limitation, or you could just be weak and also have a fatigue limitation. So that's one of the first things we can be thinking about with regards to like what's limiting your performance in this movement.
Yeah. And when I think, if someone were to tell me, hey, I'm not very good at burpees, immediately I would think of strength first, just to kind of assess it. And when we're talking about strength, we don't just mean the 1 rep max bench, like, because that's kind of the same pattern and movement you would be doing, but strength kind of in general, like how the muscle is working, how strong is your tricep, can you do 20 push-ups unbroken? Can you do 40 in a minute? That would be kind of what I'm thinking about as strength as well. Strength and muscle endurance, the muscles in general, which a lot of people can improve, because a lot of people might not, a lot of people could be pretty good at burpees, or, can do them and is, in the, 500 to 1,000 range in quarterfinals, but they can't do, over 30 push-ups unbroken. And, that would be a big bottleneck, and maybe a big eye opener for people if you're listening. Like, just go right before you're done, right before your training, or, warm up, just do as many push-ups as you can. Me and you did this in Arizona. We did 2 minutes. I can't remember if I had to open up with an unbroken set, but
no, I think it's just space you could.
I think we did 2 minutes, and I was like I think I was like 64 or something, and we were kind of like, well, this is probably not good enough. We started improving the push-up more, worked on push-up while breathing, a lot of other things. But then I think we retested it, not even a few weeks later after training, and it was like in the 70s, and it was just much better. And I started feeling a lot better with burpees, and I was, fairly strong at the time. So, or at least I thought I was. So yeah, I think people get wrapped up with the strength, and they might think, oh, I'll just go do my bench presses, I'm going to get better at burpees. But maybe it's not just that 1 RM strength, or, that 1 to 5 rep strength.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I was going to say, it's important too to watch people do these movements. And so, unique to this conversation, watch people do a burpee, because some people who might be listening, they might just have like one speed at which they can go at, which actually kind of ties into maybe the second limitation. Because some people, like, I want to go faster at the burpee. And so what you mentioned with getting your push-up stronger or your pressing stronger, that could help supplement the way in which you could go faster with the burpees. Then you can also go into training and start doing particular protocols or progressions that help you start learning how to actually perform them at a faster rate and handle that maintain it for extended periods of time. So
yeah, you mean
back
someone
to
who's doing 20 burpees quickly, being able to do that same speed, but for 40 burpees.
yes, or just being able to do 20 faster. Like I can think of a few of my clients who they can keep doing burpees for a few minutes, but the cadence is just really slow. Like they can't go faster. Part of it is strength, and I'd say also part of it is like practicing to go faster at them. But I wouldn't say it's a low hanging fruit for that person that I'm thinking about in particular. So it's not like I'm giving them 20 minutes a week to actually practice it, because it's not going to move the needle as much as other things would. But for some people, it might be something they actually need to work on. But I don't want to get too far off track. So what is limiting you when you perform the movement? If it is a muscle fatigue, it could be a strength thing, which we just elaborate on, the oxygen delivery thing, which can happen with other movements too, where you feel like you get pumped really easily. You have to slow down. You can't keep working. Fatigue is rising. So again, that comes back to, we got to improve the ability to get oxygen to that muscle. So there are things we can do in training, which we'll get to. That's in the second part. The other thing that could be limiting you is a cardiac limitation, which is kind of similar to the oxygen delivery because they are connected. So your heart is not, you reach a threshold where your heart's just not going to be able to pump more blood to keep working at that rate. You're going to slow down because your system's just pushing too fast, or it's getting ahead of it. I don't want to say it's getting ahead of itself, but it's working too fast for what it's capable of. So you might get ways in which this will manifest. Your breathing gets out of control. You start feeling like you just have to stop, or you have to take a pause. And some of it could actually be, which I wrote down, especially with the breathing, if it does get out of control, that can be what I call a software problem, where people don't have a good sense of their pace. And so what they end up doing is they just get way ahead of themselves, or they go too fast, and they've created this limitation or this fatigue mechanism that was self-induced because they just don't have a good connection to what's the pace I actually need to be going at to perform this movement consistently or within the context of the workout I'm doing. So that can be fixed in training, where you're starting to help improve the software, the person's ability to regulate pace and effort given the context of doing the movement and the constraints that are involved. So if breathing does get out of control pretty easily for you, or becomes something that's very prevalent, that could be you just don't have a good sense of your pace with that movement. So that would be one.
So with the cardiac limitation, I can just get like a elevation mask, and it would improve if I just did burpees with my elevation mask, right?
No, that wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work. I see people doing it.
Yeah, that doesn't change the partial pressure of the oxygen in the atmosphere. That just changes how much air you can actually get in. So you're actually gonna induce fatigue more quickly because you just can't even get in any oxygen.
I saw a fit guy doing it.
Well, I'm just telling you what I think.
Gotcha.
So he can go use the mask if he wants.
Don't use the masks, everybody.
Yeah.
Don't use them.
Yeah, if you want to replicate being at altitude, you got to actually go to altitude where the air is thinner. There's less oxygen in the air. That's what will actually drive the red blood cell adaptation you want. That will improve work capacity, but you don't get that with the masks. That's just limiting how much air you can get in, which isn't smart. That's actually not good. That's not going to make you fitter. So getting back on track, because actually I did have one of those masks and I used it in college because I thought that was like the ticket. So what a knucklehead I looked like wearing that thing, doing burpees and rowing intervals. And the best were the strength coaches. Yeah. And they were smart and they knew things. And so they're looking at me like, dude, what are you doing? And I'm trying to explain that to them. They're like, no, that's not how chemistry works. Like this is actually what's happening. And then I was like, oh, interesting. Okay, good. I'm not going to use this anymore. Okay. So the software piece, another potential reasoning for that being a limitation, if would be a hardware problem where you're just not even that fit. So if you're not fit, then yeah, burpees are going to be really hard, and you can pretty much do anything, and that's going to get you better in the sense that your cardiovascular system is going to improve, your muscles are going to improve, your software is going to improve. You're going to better understand how to work and breathe and work and breathe. So maybe you're just not even that fit. And if you're not fit, then you can do anything and you're going to get better at burpees. So most people, I think, will fall into the first bucket we outlined, where there's some sort of muscle fatigue or there's some sort of pump in the muscle. I think most people will fall into that bucket because usually that'll present itself first before breathing gets really erratic or out of control. Usually that's a little bit more downstream. So those are the two, I would say, buckets for like what's potentially limiting you when you perform the movement. But I must say one caveat: whenever you really want to know why somebody is struggling with something, you just need to ask them, because they're going to have a really good understanding of what's going on just with the words they use and how they describe it. And then as a coach, you take that information and you interpret it and you create context around, okay, this is what I think is going on based on what you told me. That'll just give you a really good sense of what's possibly limiting people. Just always ask them. Just, you don't have to be a scientist to figure it out. Just ask people. They'll tell you.
Yes. So if I thought, we're watching a client do 7 minutes of burpees and we're like, man, they look like their breathing is so out of control. And it may be a little bit, but that's what we think is like the biggest issue. But then they may come to you and say, like, actually, I was breathing hard, but my breathing felt great. I just couldn't press anymore,
Yeah. Then that just shows you that, yeah, their body is maybe more comfortable breathing at a higher rate, which is great, but they can't, their just muscles are reaching their end point. Like they can't go any faster because they're just fatiguing so much.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, okay. So you have a few examples, for the.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote another component because some people will notice this, like jumping. So there is obviously a jump in pretty much every burpee. Some people, when they do burpees, like over a box, to a target, over a barbell, sometimes the jumping can be a component that adds to the fatigue. So if jumping is something that exacerbates your limitation with burpees, that could be because every time you jump, you're using way too much energy to jump, which is, it's funny because usually when you jump, your intention is to express force and force development and to be explosive, because that's like, why are we jumping? But inside the context of CrossFit, when you jump, you want it to be the opposite. You want the jumps to be very controlled and relaxed and not very costly. So when you are doing any sort of jumping, you're going to need to be thinking about, how can I relax in this jump and how can I use less energy so I'm not wasting precious resources to perform this movement. So just something to pay attention to. And then when you go into training, just being a little more conscientious of relaxing those reps. So that would fall into one of those software problem buckets, just where you have to get your pace dialed a little bit more with the jumping.
You could almost kind of wrap the like the step up and the step down, or the jump back and jump up, kind of in that as well. The lower body, fatiguing a lot.
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing it with other movements.
Yes, that's why this is a lot of these things I'm saying got to be carried or taken with a grain of salt, because we're looking at it in isolation, and very rarely do you ever perform this movement in isolation. Most times you are doing with other things, and other things are going to influence the fatigue limiters and how your body operates and uses oxygen, your pacing strategy, everything. So just always keep that in mind. So think of like the principles we're talking about as good ideas for, like, okay, how am I going to approach the improvement of this movement or this skill? So now we can go into the practice and training of it. Yep.
Yeah. So we want to improve those areas. You're either not strong enough, or you're not fit enough, or a mixture, but one of the two is likely lacking.
Pretty much. It's not that complicated. So the first one, the muscle fatigue. Yeah, muscle fatigue. So which has two components, which we talked about. If you are weak, which Roman mentioned, good upper body strength training, muscle endurance training. So getting your bench press stronger, which is great. But if you bench press 400 pounds, that doesn't automatically mean you're going to be great at burpees. If you can do a lot of reps at 225, maybe that'll help. But just having a robust upper body is a good thing to have to help with something like a burpee. So it's not going to instantly make you great. Like Chris Spieler probably has one of the weakest bench presses in CrossFit, but he's great at bodyweight movements. So it goes to show it's not like 1-to-1. You have a great bench press, you're great at burpees. Not necessarily. We just want a strong upper body. That's where the muscle endurance piece comes in, which you talked about the push-ups. So training for that, hand release push-ups, ring push-ups. You could even do dips. You could do dumbbell overhead press, holds, isometrics. There's lots of things you can do to improve the muscle endurance of your triceps, pec, and shoulder. Let's say those three are the big, mainly the triceps, but those three are going to be used a lot in the burpee. So weakness, you just need to get stronger a few times a week, 2-3 sessions per week where you're getting good touches with variations in contraction types, and you're good to go. One other thing I want to say too, because I don't think I wrote it down. No, I don't have it below, but just so I don't forget, with anything, if you want to get better at it, you do need to do it and practice it. So while we are saying and giving ideas and thoughts that are helping improve the performance of the burpee, you still need to do it each week in some degree. So if you are that person who's weak, has a weakness limitation, maybe one session a week or one piece a week, you are doing burpees to actually practice the movement and try to feel a little bit more tension on the ground and like feel like your triceps are working to hold you a little bit tighter. So don't necessarily fully remove it from your weekly training.
And don't do 200 of them a week right now.
No, definitely not. Somebody mowing your lawn?
Yes.
Nice.
My father-in-law, he's mowing the property.
Nice. He's probably on his John Deere.
Skag.
Oh, is that a good brand? I don't know.
Yeah, it's good. It's I'm pretty sure he's on it. It's fast. We got a tractor, but he's on the riding mower right now.
Cool.
He doesn't want to push anymore because he says he's not O2. He doesn't have a delivery issue.
Oh yeah.
He has a strength issue, so he needs to sit and rest. He doesn't want to. He's got squats right after this.
Good. He's warming up for his training session.
He'll never listen to this.
Yeah, definitely not. But it's great nonetheless. So then the other
O2 delivery. Yeah.
So poor O2 delivery, which if you're getting pumped, like you feel like you can't get blood in and out of the region. It's just like it's just fatiguing a lot, but you're strong. Like you're not weak. Like I can do 60 push-ups in 2 minutes. I can bench press 300 pounds. I can do weighted dips. I can do handstand push-ups, but I just get really pumped to my triceps when I do burpees. You might fall into this category where you can't get oxygen to that those working muscles very well. So one way you can do that is, like we mentioned earlier, you need more roads, which roads are delivering the cars, which the cars contain the oxygen. So you need more of those. So easy work, zone 2, classic zone 2, that type of work helps here, but it has to be specific to those muscles. So you can't do concept 2 bike or running. It's not going to help you that much, but ski erg and rowing, some echo bike, those things would be really helpful because those are going to actually build the roads in your triceps, your upper body musculature.
So you're kind of explaining like you're getting blood flow to the area, you're improving the way the blood gets there, brings nutrients, brings fuel, so that say you now can do that more efficiently. So when you're from 0 to 50 burpees and now you're 50 on, you're still getting fuel, or we could call it fuel. You're still getting, you still have the ability to keep going because the roads are improved and you can get more cars to that area.
Yes. I would say it's going to help you more with the recovery between the reps.
Mhm.
So the improvement in performance will come more through the actual training, but the improvement in recovery between reps will get improved from the easier work. So that's the big part of it.
Give us an example.
Yeah. So, and then what I would do is you could do, so let me give you an example. You do 20 minutes, easy pace, you 500 meter ski, 100 single unders, 500 meter row, 50-second top of push-up hold. So you go through that for 20 minutes. Maybe you do 2-3 rounds of that. So we're getting a little bit of fatigue, breathing's elevated, you're getting a lot of blood to the upper body, which is great. Then you go into some mixed sets that have burpees involved, and we're rotating the fatigue around. So it's not concentrated heavily on the burpee. So 5 sets, high effort, repeatable pace, 15 row cows, 15 burpees, 15 kettlebell swings, 15 GHD sit-ups, 15 air squats, rest 1-to-1. So now we're getting reps in with the particular movement. We're moving the fatigue around, so we're not concentrating it solely on the tricep or the pressing musculature. And so now we're working on improving that delivery of oxygen to that part of the body. As people get better, a really simple thing you could do is just have them switch up the order of that sequence each set. So I had the order fixed in this example, but you could change the order, and that, of course, is going to change fatigue and how they handle that. But that could just be an easy way of priming the area, accumulating a little bit of fatigue, but getting good blood flow, working on the thing you actually need, and then going into faster work intervals that aren't too localized to that particular muscular just yet. Eventually you would do that. Eventually you would want to go 50 cal row, 50 burpees, rest 5 minutes, 2 sets or 3 sets. Yeah. Like you want to eventually get people to that where the 50 burpee split is real consistent for multiple sets and it's fast. But this would be the gate, the starting point of like, okay, let's start to work on that ability to get more oxygen to your muscles as you're working in that pattern.
Yeah. So easy work, almost warm up effort. You're working on, we're doing a plank hold, some easy rowing, and what else do you have in there? Plank hold, easy rowing, single unders, easy skiing. You're getting blood to the area, and then you're going into a little bit of faster work that has the burpee in it. But it's not just burpees. It's other things. Your blood's going everywhere. Your blood's going to your legs. You're pulling, you're pushing. Then you're resting.
Moving a lot.
And then you're repeating the speed, high effort. So it's not all, even though it's off season, it's not all easy work.
No, of course not. No. And the warm up, again, for people like this, the warm up is very helpful because you're priming everything and you're getting the body ready. Like, okay, yeah, we're going to work in this area. So I need to get warm. I need to get blood flowing there. Where some people don't need that. They can just do whatever little warm up they need for 5-10 minutes and then get right into their sets and really hit it. Those people, that's a different type of avatar, and they're not listening to this podcast because they're really fit. This isn't going to help them. But even though I laid it out that way, you still need the easy work. So like if you have extra sessions in your week, you could do 60 minutes of that. That would be great for somebody like this. I have a client in particular. We started working together last year, and he's somebody like this who's really strong, but he pumps out really easily in his upper body. Not as much now, but he was last year. He did. And so one thing we did is he had like 3 sessions per week of really easy cyclical work. And it was mainly ski and row for like up to an hour, 3 times per week, varying it up as he wanted from May till, I don't know, maybe February. And that was great. It really helped improve his muscle endurance, his ability to get oxygen to those muscles, his ability to work at faster rates without the risk of blowing up. So that was a super simple thing we did that was really helpful. So he needed a lot of time because you need tremendous amount of time to build those roads. It doesn't just happen in 4 weeks. That's why Tour de France riders ride like 30 hours a week, and 95% of that is like this easy stuff. It's like you got to build those roads for those legs, and in our case, we got to build it for the upper body. So you need a lot of time. It needs to be easy. It needs to be long. So you can do those separately. That's just a good tool to front load the session with some easy work in the region that you're going to work, just to get blood flow for those types of people.
Okay.
The other example are incremental sets. So where you're increasing the pace. This is helping your system to push more oxygen to the muscles. So you start easier and you build speed. So it's like you're ramping things up, and your system is it's like the what would be the best way to describe it? It's like you're gently doing a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. So there's this nice connection from one to the next. You're not going from like 0 to 100 really quick, which is hard for this who fall into this bucket. Their system does not like to do that. So we kind of have to ease into it and build speed. So the example I gave, 9 sets, 21 cal row, 15 cal assault bike, 9 burpees to 6 inches overhead, rest 3 minutes, maybe 2 to 3 minutes. And then 9 sets. So the first set is easy. The second set is moderately fast. The third set is fast. Then the fourth set is easy. The fifth set is moderately fast. The sixth set is fast. So it's easy, moderate, fast, easy, moderate, fast, easy, moderate, fast. So that's a undulating cadence you could go at that can be helpful for making sure you're getting some tough sets in, but not too much to where you're going to run into a limitation that you're trying to improve. So maybe it would be better if I went like 30, 20, 10.
Yeah, so I think most people probably aren't. This is the one style that they probably aren't doing, or more likely not doing, or have never done.
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, and so it's 9 sets. You're going to go up, and then you go back down. You go up. You go back down. You go up. So it's 1, 2, 3, easy, moderate, hard, like you said, and then you're going easy again. So it's like, you're getting harder. You're hardening. You're pushing the blood into the muscles. The third set's really hard, and then you get to recover, but you take a break, and then you're going easy again. So it's kind of like you're touching it, and then you're coming back down. You're touching it. You're coming back down. And, week to week, maybe you're doing this for 4 weeks, and, you're getting even better and better each week, and you're touching those, that tougher speed. So you're not just going really fast all the time. And I think people could learn about this, about like being able to slow down, recover while still doing the movement, feel good. You do this, you've accumulated 90 burpees, 30 easy, 30 moderate, and 30 really, really hard. If you're doing 30, 20, 10. So I think a lot of people could learn a lot about not just, the burpee, but in general, ramping up pacing and really feeling the effects of increasing the speed. So I think the incremental sets can be good for a lot of people.
Yeah. And it also, it makes those 3 sets, the tough sets, they feel hard. So even though it's only 3 sets, which isn't a lot, the context is very consistent with what you would expect to perform those movements in. So like your breathing's elevated, there's fatigue, your triceps are probably a little bit tired. So you're getting 3 really good working sets, which also means that the stress is low on your system. You're getting 3 easy sets, which is great. That's good volume work, like we talked about, that you need that easy work. And then the 3 moderate sets are somewhere in the middle. So that style can be really nice, especially if, at least in my head, the way I look at it is, if I want to get people towards more faster work where they're doing, let's just say 9 sets really fast, I will probably use some sort of incremental tool before I go there. So I'm slowly exposing them to more intensive volume, and their system's getting a little more accustomed to it. And that acts as like a nice little bridge from easier work to touching a little bit more speed to really touching speed. So that's a great tool. You can use that so many different ways too. This is just one super easy, simple example.
Yep. So next, that was kind of the delivery system,
Yeah.
Now we're getting into the breathing a little bit more. You want to touch on that?
Yes. Yeah. I'm pausing because I'm questioning my wording of cardiac limitation. I'm not sure if that's a great representation of what's going on, but it's fine. It's not, it doesn't matter. We're not defending a research paper here. So the software problem that I mentioned, what I highlighted was that there could be a pacing problem. So if somebody doesn't have a good sense of their pace or an understanding of what they can actually do, then you have to train that. You have to give them exposure and environments that allow them to feel the pace that associates with that movement, given the level of intensity or effort you're asking of them. So, kind of similar to the incremental sets here, you can give them 5 sets where you're increasing the pace per set. So at the example I gave, 20 cal row, 10 bar facing burpee, 5 power cleaned overhead, rest 2 minutes. So start slow and easy, get faster per set. Last set tough, but in control, smooth. So with these people, you probably have to be a lot more explicit with the guidelines you give them, because they don't, it doesn't come naturally to them. Whereas for another person, you could just say 5 sets increasing pace and they'll do it perfectly. This person, they could blow up on the second set and then they're done. So another little caveat you can give them is if you don't get faster per set, you have to stop. And so that can quickly help people learn, like, okay, yeah, I got to really start slow and ease into it. So your words can be really helpful here when you know, okay, what am I trying to do with this person in this piece? Or I'm trying to help them learn how to pace better. Then I'm going to use words that are going to help guide them towards that. Start really slow, get a little bit faster. Last set is fast, but not, light yourself on fire. So that is one way we could start working on that software problem. Another way, consistent rounds. So I just gave an example of a classic MGW, 5 rounds, 27 cal row, 9 burpees, 9 thrusters. So the bulk of the work is on the rower. And then they're getting off doing some work with the burpees and the thrusters. And then I didn't go into as much detail with the guidelines, but I would probably write, because I wrote consistent output, so I'd want consistent splits per round, stay in control, great breathing throughout, something like that. So I'm trying to guide them towards, I want this nice consistent cadence round over round, and I want to see that they're able to pace this effectively. Like, can you actually show me repeatability across these rounds? Because then we can layer on speed. But if you can't do that, then we're not going to go any further. So those would be 2 ways we could approach the pacing problem that they might have, which is showing up as a cardiac breathing limitation, which again, I think might be just more like maybe they don't know their pace.
Yeah. So basically keeping it consistent or ramping up so that we can control the breathing rate, so that they're not, like you said, their issue might be they're just going so hard and breathing so fast. So you're kind of capping that by, or controlling it. They're doing the 5 sets with the rest. Each set gets a little faster. So they're increasing the row pace a little bit, increasing the burpee speed, increasing the barbell speed. And then the next round, each one of those increase a little bit. Each one increases a little bit. So then the breath rate is following suit, and they're kind of not almost, they're practicing. Now I'm breathing a little bit faster and going a little faster and getting more comfortable doing that. So it's not just practice of it happening, but also just being comfortable. Like, I'm on the 4th round and I'm breathing really hard, but I'm in control and I'm doing it.
Yep.
And then repeating that week to week.
Yeah. And they're learning, they're just gaining a better sense of what is easy, what is fast, what is somewhere in between. And when, like, if I gave them 10 minutes of work, they'll then start to put the 2 and 2 together and go like, okay, then my cadence probably needs to be reflective of that, like, moderate speed that I know with the burpee. I'm not going to go blazing, and I'm not going to go super slow, but it's like, I'm somewhere in the middle there, because that's what this is asking for. So again, this is the person who might be really disconnected from their ability level and what they think they can do, which is why they have a pacing issue.
Yeah. Or possibly they're really fast at 50 burpees for time, but doing, 50 or 50 plus with a lot of other things. Like you said, they think they're really good at it, but then as soon as you enter in assault bike burpee, it's, you know, a game changer, and they don't know why. You know, it must have been something else. I'm so frustrated. Like I just had a bad day.
Yes. Yep. 100%.
Always
and then that
place
other
the blame
example.
elsewhere.
Oh yeah, of course. And then the other one was the hardware problem. So like, it's their physiology is just not, they're just not fit. Hardware just meaning like your cardiovascular system, your muscles, your lungs, like everything's just not that fit. Then you can do anything and people are going to get better. So you just need to train. Like if you're not fit, then yeah, burpees aren't going to feel great. You're not going to be great at them. So just start training and you'll get better at them. And then you'll get to the point where now you've been doing them for a while. You're pretty fit. You're like, okay, now how do I go faster? Why can't I go faster now? And then that's when you can go back to some of the things we previously mentioned. Be like, okay, maybe there is something particular that's limiting me with this movement, or it's a combination of things. Maybe when your core is really tired, your burpees really suck because it's harder for you to brace and hold good positions, and then now it's harder to press off the ground. So those are other things you got to think about too. As like a part B to all this is there a particular context in which this movement is really challenging for you?
Yeah. I think people might also get wrapped up in thinking that we're talking, let's just say the cardiac and the delivery specific issue, or, you know, that might be your limiter, but that doesn't mean it's your limiter for everything, because someone could come into the sport with a great cycling background, have like you said, you know, spent a lot of time building roads in their legs. They can breathe all day. And even maybe when they do burpees, they breathe well, but that doesn't mean their upper body is necessarily built and ready to do 100 burpees fast in a workout.
It won't be.
So you might not have this limitation, or this style of training that you are doing for the burpee might not, you know, be what you need to be doing for, you know, box jump overs or, you know, thrusters. There could be some carryover, but the more the more you see someone with like a very specific background, you know, they're likely to have big discrepancies somewhere, especially if it's like an endurance background, because there's not very many endurance sports where you're doing a lot of upper body work, you know.
100%.
Or, you know, maybe
great example. Noah Olson, big swimming water polo background. Even you, but we'll use Noah Olson as the example. Really great upper body capacity, muscle endurance. Like he'll just go for days. Then you have somebody that was a cyclist or a hockey player. Their legs will literally never get tired. Like they'll just they just won't get tired. But their upper body could be really poor. So yes, your background will, especially if it was an endurance sport, will heavily influence what you're capable of and or where your limitations might lie inside of this sport, since this sport is very encompassing of everything. It's going to be great at top and bottom.
Exactly. Yeah. So for people looking at our kind of, you know, our final point is you need to test it. And you need to
before that, yes, but before that, you figure out what is limiting me most likely. Okay, I got it. Now let me go train it for a bit. Let me build volume, exposure. Like you got to, you know, give it some time to actually practice and develop it. And then to your point, yes, next, okay, now we need to test it. Let's go back in 6 weeks, find something that makes sense in testing this skill, and let's see how you do. And see if the limitation has changed. Is it the same? If it's the same, okay, we got to approach it a different way. If it's different, great. Maybe we change something. So, you know, test, retest, 100%.
Yeah. And it doesn't, you know, you can see a lot of gain in 6 weeks, but we have a long time until the open. You know, you can keep retesting it. You could do 100 burpees for time, you know, every few months, you know, 3 times leading up until the open, and see if your training is still improving, and are you getting better at other things as well.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't suggest that, because I don't think 100 burpees for time.
Whatever the test is.
Yeah. I would, what would I say? I would, well, again, it's just going to depend on what you need.
Yeah.
I just want people to think like, if my 100 for time get better,
Yeah.
Everything's get better. I mean, you get better at 100 for time, but just by doing 100 for time, the said principle, like you just keep doing that. But I guess your squatting getting better, is your pulling getting better, is your weightlifting getting better, your muscle ups getting better. It's like, so we don't want to miss the forest for the trees here. It's like burpees. We use this as like a little clickbait where burpees
Yeah.
very high, top of everybody's mind. They want to get better at them. They're very important. They're always present, but it's not the determining factor in whether or not you're going to be elite or better in the sport. There's a lot of things. So we just want to take those principles and apply them, implement, test, retest, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah, and I think there's other things you could be testing too on the way. So like if let's just say you're very green or you're very new, like can you hold a 2-minute plank on the rings? Like a front plank on top of a push-up. Then can you do the 60 push-ups? Like, okay, check, I'm getting better at those. Now can I do 100 burpees for time and it was way faster? Yes. If you're improving those things on the way and you're stacking them and getting better, then likely the other things are improving too. So I think, like we said, there was the clickbait of the burpee, but ideally, if you're training appropriately, you're getting better at more than one thing, not just the burpee. But you want to see
100%.
the improvement in the burpee, but it's going to bleed into
and that's things. And I mean that's the real goal in the training is you're trying to get better at as many things as you can indirectly. Like there will be a few things that you're directly focusing on, but you're just wanting like all of your skills and all of your fitness to be rising slowly as the year goes on. And then the things that lag are less respondent to training. Those are the things you're like trying to really push up. But that's what you're trying to do in this sport because there's just so many things. You're just trying to raise everything up slowly together. That's key, which we won't go into detail in this episode, but that's really important. We're trying to get things to move together. But the more I think about it, go ahead.
I was going to say the indirect part is like a really big reason why very traditional strength protocols won't work in the sport. Like you do a junior or, like the Smolov thing, for your squat, or let's just say your bench press for this, the junior Smolov for the bench press, because you're trying to get stronger, but you're so hyper focusing on the bench press, it may not be helping you. It won't be helping you in a lot of ways. Versus if you're designing the training and tailoring it because you need to get better at burpees to improve your overhead strength and your handstand pushups, etc. That's why the training approach has to be different. And like a traditional powerlifting, traditional weightlifting thing, those things aren't going to be as effective. A real traditional approach would be challenging amongst all the other things you need to be working on. I mean, you could take a year and just do powerlifting, but are you going to really come back in a year and do CrossFit? I don't think so. And you just missed a whole year of accumulating repetitions that you need. So, that's always an interesting one. But I don't think a lot of people debate that as much as they used to. I think people are really, they understand that now. 10 years ago, not so much. There's still a few. There's still some programs floating out there.
Yeah, I'm sure. But, like the more I was thinking about it, the 100 burpees for time, that could be a pretty good test.
A lot of people just did it, the 100 bar facing, Saban's
did more people because of his podcast did?
Yeah, there's a few people kind of filming it, doing it, and I think it's easy for someone just to go jump in and do, and then if you tell them, hey, it should take you 5 minutes, it doesn't take that long, then they'll just be like, oh yeah, I'll do it.
The one thing I think I push back on when I think about that is the 100 burpees is not reflective of any type of pace or speed that you would go in an actual work. I think the closest would have been the first open workout, but the open is not significant for most people who care about getting better in the sport. Like, yes, you need to do the open and you want to, your performance improves, but if you care about making the quarterfinals and semifinals of games, the open is it's kind of on the way. It doesn't, as of now at least. It could change next year. Who knows? So this going all out for 100 isn't the same cadence you would go out for 3 rounds of 50 wall balls, 50 burpee box jump overs. Like that's a totally different cadence. So you would use the 100 as a check-in for, did my triceps maintain the pace for the entirety of the piece, or did they start blowing up really early? Like at 50, my triceps usually go. How did they feel at 50? So I would use it more as a check-in for, was my fatigue limitation coming up at the same point as it did previously, or did I move it a little bit? How was my breathing? Did I pace it right where my speed was consistent throughout? So that's how I would look at something like that, because it's akin to saying, like, let's do 50 thrusters per time with 95 pounds as fast as possible. It's like, well, that's not a really good test because you don't do 50 for time fast ever.
Mm-hmm.
In Jackie, you do it with the barbell, but that's totally different. And that's not like
for a row.
Yeah, and it's 45 pounds, not 95 pounds. So why would you do 50 really fast? So context is so important in the sport. So
it's like, you know, we'll get into this probably in another episode too, but like why we have KPIs to see if we're moving the needle in an area, but the best test still is the test. Like, cause you know, you're not doing
exactly.
Most likely you're not doing the KPI. You might be 30 ring muscle ups for time in an event, but overall, like you're likely doing muscle ups and thrusters and running, you know, and you have to be good at that, not just the 30 for time.
Yeah. The best way to test performance is with a track and a stopwatch. So you go do the event. You go do what the actual test is. That's the best way to see where you're at.
Just make sure your stopwatch is a Garmin. Podcast brought to you not by Garmin yet, but maybe one day.
Yeah. We'll rep them until that day comes.
Yeah. All right. I think we touched everything pretty well. If you're not very strong, get stronger. If you don't breathe very well, incrementally breathe more. And if you're not delivering very well, do some easy, slow work and then some faster work. And always be practicing your burpees. Always
in your pace.
ABB. Yeah. So a lot of stuff probably people probably knew, just maybe putting a little more context around it and how you can, you know, how we would approach it. You know, how we think these are great ways to improve your burpees whilst improving everything else. Whilst. While I've been working on my proper English.
I love it. Great. That was good.
Any closing thoughts?
No, that was good.
Very nice. All right, everybody. We appreciate you watching. Remember that maybe this is episode 3-ish coming out from the Proof 3 YouTube channel. So please give us a like and a subscribe. Help us get back to the live shows. We can't wait to see you soon. And if you have any questions, please leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about burpees. And maybe if you're still listening by this point, comment your 7 minutes for burpee time, your most recent. And if you haven't done it, do it and then comment it. I would love to see.
Yeah. So, love it.
Goodbye and farewell, everybody. Thanks again for listening.